Bam, bam, bam! Hey, I'm broke. What's up? It's the Culture Detective here investigating your favorite albums, and today I'm going to take some of my time out to do an album review on the latest Creeper album, Sex, Death, and the Infinite Void. So, Creeper is a pop punk goth rock band from Southampton, UK, and they are actually pretty new to the scene, but they have already dropped a couple of records, or I think actually just one record before this one, which wasn't really all that great, kind of mediocre, kind of lackluster, and now this is their follow up to their previous album, and I think it's alright. I think it's alright. It's certainly better than I have imagined. A good portion of the tracks in this album are also really basic 2000s inspired pop punk, I guess, with a horrorcore edge to it, with a glam rock edge to it as well. And then there are some tracks that are actually legitimately catchy and fun. And then we have these interludes, which I find absolutely pointless. They're basically some spoken word, trying to, make the atmosphere a little spookier, a little bit more gothic, but really fell flat because it doesn't really do anything musically at all or anything to the flow of the album. So let's talk about the album track by track. The first actual track on the album is Be My End, and I actually think it is one of the better tracks on the album, even though it is very much a early 2000s inspired pop punk song with a huge soaring anthemic chorus as well as loud grinding guitars. It's actually one of the catchier songs on the album. The hook about vampires is really cool as well. And then the album sort of starts to slow down after that. We have the track Born Cold, which is also very much a 2000s pop punk song, except the vocalist decides to sing in a lower register, which is so much blander and more mundane in comparison with his higher register, which is wild, crazy. But the lower register is just so monotone and it's so uninteresting sounding. The hooks and the chorus on this track is also so much more mediocre in comparison to the first track. And then we have the track Annabelle, which is one of the bigger singles leading up to this track. And this is a very upbeat anthemic song once again, very loud and energetic as well. And even though I get the appeal of this track, I still go away of this track thinking that it's actually just kind of basic, kind of average. And then we have the tracks Paradise and Poisoned Heart, which are two tracks where the vocalist also uses his low register, and again his low register is bland, it's monotone, it doesn't sound interesting. I would very much prefer it if the vocalist uses his high register, but still these tracks are not terribly written. They still have a really obvious structure, and there are still elements of the track that I find, oh hey, maybe the guitars, the performances, they're passionate, okay, and the vocalist at least is trying his best. The former of the two, Paradise, is a very sluggish track, very slow and uneventful, and the latter of which, Poisoned Heart, has a nostalgic sweet chord progression, but the hooks are still very lackluster. We have the track Black Moon, which is basically a slow goth punk track, and it just ends up sounding really forgettable, as it doesn't really put anything new to the table at all. And the album ends off with All My Friends, which is actually the quietest song on the album, also a very disappointing ending to the album in my opinion, in that it's a quiet ballad. It's a quiet piano ballad, and I have to say, quiet ballads are not the strong suits of this band, because they can't really come up with anything all that explosive or exciting, because whenever this band makes something surprising on this album, it's usually in those explosive moments. So the track All My Friends is basically one really forgettable, bland track, in my opinion. However, we also have a few pretty damn good songs on this album that I kinda enjoy. We have Cyanide, which is this really fun, playful, almost to a point where it's sort of a trolling kind of playful, sort of a glam rock lovey-dovey song about Christina Applegate in her 80s, and just about how cool she is and how how goth she feels, and it's really fun. I really cracked a huge smile when I listened to this track, and it's also really catchy as well. And then we have the track Thorns of Love, which is this Beatles-esque 4/4 song with a swingy drum beat and some very sweet guitars and sweet, lovely vocals. And the vocals are very tongue-in-cheek as well, and I also really love the chord progression on this track. It sounds vintage, yet it's sweet and fun and done in a playful way, and it's very memorable. The other track that I really enjoyed is the track after Thorns of Love, which is 4 years ago, where we get these very cinematic, atmospheric instrumentals, and the vocal melodies, they're very simple, they're simplistic, but they're also a duet between the female vocalist and the male vocalist, and together they sound kind of engaging, and it's also one of the more memorable tracks on the album. But my favorite track on the entire album has to be the track Napalm Girls, which is easily the most energetic and noisy track on the entire album. Not only is it really catchy, but also it is really solid. It doesn't beat around the bush and fill it with slow hooks or anything. It's one straightforward banger. And also the chorus, I really like the chorus of this track. Her kiss is violin, her kiss is violin. And it's very fun and very playful, and I enjoy that. So yeah, this is a very short album review. Overall, I think this album is definitely a huge improvement upon their first record, and there are actually as far as instrumental wise and performance wise, they're actually really solid in this album. But what this album lacks, in my opinion, is something special. I wish they can go more experimental or go wilder, go nastier. I just want to see them push their musical boundaries a little further. On top of that, the hooks and the choruses, a lot of them are just forgettable. I really wish that they're more catchy, they're more fun and playful. But I guess other than that, I really like the glamorous attitude that this album has, and there are legit a few tracks that I kinda enjoy. So yeah, not much else to say about Creeper. I guess they have yet to own and perfect their sound, so I think their next album may be even better. Who knows? My favorite track on this album is Napalm Girls, and my least favorite is All My Friends. I am giving Creeper with Sex, Death, and the Infinite Void a light to decent 7 out of 10. So, have you listened to the latest Creeper album? From 1 to 10, how much did you rate it? Like if you like it, and subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching.